So
Yes,
you've
sir.
been to parties where those drinks were spiked.
For sure. To you and me, I would have picked Tequila. I went to my room and I locked all of them, even that top lock. But at 3 or 4 in the morning, they were trying to get into my room to bring me to the party. Jasmine, who beautiful as all get out, but she could not sing at all. And Aubrey wanted to be like the HBIC. We made it through the storm.
I really want you to realize with Puff. Is
Yeah,
that
well, he used to bow to me, including two number two hits that went around the world for Leona Lewis and Rihanna.
Everybody check your phone. So I ain't got no choice but to prove that I ain't gonna fold under pressure. I'm just doing what I do. This is for everybody for the phone. I'm a make a believer to you.
Hi, you might remember me from Making the Band 3 Season 2.
I'm on that nose, no, no.
my people, my people, my people? Welcome to Storytelling with Dominique Renee, where I am telling my own story in my own way, and you already know I'm loving every minute of it. I was so ready to jump right back in with y'all and get into all the wild stuff that happened when they called us back to New York to determine finally who was going to be in the band. Then I got a call from my girl Kelli Love. Y'all been asking for these interviews. I've been trying to deliver. And Kelli was like, girl, I'm ready to talk. So that's what we're doing today. Kelli. Kelli, Kelli, Kelli.
Hey, girl, Dominique.
Oh, I'm so I am so excited to have you in this space with me tonight.
Thank you so much, sis. I'm really honored. You see me over here? I just lit up the stage again, cause, whoo, child,
Listen, you better do what you need to do to protect yourself, protect your peace, protect your
protect
home.
protections, baby. All
Yeah,
praises, all
welcome
praises.
to Storytelling with Dominique Renee. You in the
Thank you,
house.
thank you. I really am in the house. Thank you so much, sis. It's
We've
it's
been trying to get
beautiful.
it together. We've been trying to get this thing together, and we are here.
I think this might have been harder than making the band with all these babies running around.
I got my 3 kids. You got your 4 kids. We in the mix.
We got a tribe with us together. We could do making the band volume whatever, season whatever with the next
Kid edition,
generation.
right?
Okay, right.
I am oh my gosh, I'm gonna jump in because girl, I've been waiting to talk to you. And if I'm let me think who I've spoken to. You are you are the first making the band alum who went all the way to the end like me. That I'm
Well,
actually talking to.
I'm honored to be here with you
Yeah,
once
yeah.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
I,
happy to have you in this space. Go ahead.
I tuned into your episodes and I saw my girl Callie and I saw my girl Amber from the Bay. Shout out Bay Area. And
Is
who
that
else?
where
Who
you're
else?
from in Cali, from the Bay?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh, so many of y'all. Wow. That's like, you, Amber, Malika.
That's
I
right.
mean, that's a good percentage for the number of girls that were in the house of people specifically from that area. Okay,
Yeah, man.
talent.
They got a lot of sauce, you know? They got a
Yeah.
lot of saucy women, that's for sure.
Yeah, I ain't mad at
Who
that.
who else? Who else? I saw somebody. Oh, Chelsea, sweet Chelsea.
Chelsea, yep, Chelsea, Amber, and Cowie, and I'm just excited to have you here. So we about to jump right in,
Okay,
okay?
good.
Where do I want to start with you? Listen, the people are gonna take me down if I don't start here because I get so wrapped up. This is storytelling with Dominique Renee. So I don't be like, I got my questions, but when we get into it, I get into it. We veer off and all those things. And I love that. But then sometimes I forget the stuff that I know I need to ask. And so I have been tasked with asking every single Making the Band alum that I interview from here on out who would have been their top 5, who would have made their band. So we're going to start there and then we're going to jump around from there.
Okay. I love this question because I wish that I could have made the band. Because see, if it would have been my way and I could have made the band, it would have been a singer heavy group. Like to me, to have 4 or 5 young women singing, you want the harmonies, you want the full sound. And so I would have picked a group that was heavy in the vocals. So you were in my band straight out the gate. To me,
I'll take it. I'll take
yes.
it.
To me, you were the strongest vocalist that we had, period, hands down. I mean, I think that goes without saying.
Thank
And
you.
so after you and me, I would have picked Miss Taquita Thorns from Detroit. She also had a beautiful tone,
Oh
beautiful
my
voice,
gosh. Big, beautiful voice. Big, beautiful voice.
big, beautiful energy. That was my girl. So you meet Taquita. With Taquita has to come Cowie. Cowie also has and had an angelic, beautiful tone, beautiful voice. She knew how to harmonize already, didn't need to be taught. And then for my fifth, if we were going from the top of the show, I would have picked Amber because Amber could sing. She's sweet, easy to work with, funny. Listen,
That's my
you and
girl.
me,
You know
look,
that's my girl.
yeah, you and me. I mean, I could be serious at times. I can be blunt, but I'm really, I'm really like I love to laugh. And so, could you imagine going around tour with Taquita and Cowie? I mean, we would have been rolling the whole time.
We would have
So
been a hot mess in the
yes,
best way, like
in the
in the
best
most fun
way,
way. Yeah,
in the
yeah.
most fun way.
That's a
And
good
so,
band.
yes, and then okay, so if it was going from the top of the show, but if we're going from a little bit further down, then I would go with Dawn too because Dawn's talent, both vocally and dance, was undeniable, and she was just a joy and just lovely to be around, super creative. So I would have wanted to be around the singers who were funny and kind and creative, and we would have been laughing and harmonizing
Yeah.
all across the country, all across the universe, girl. We would have had harmonies like En Vogue. We would have killed a Hey Mr. DJ remix. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
Mr. DJ.
You can get me started
Everybody needs to party.
all night, all night.
Girl. Listen, you listen. You're not going to get me to argue with an all vocals group because
Yes.
clearly Dominique and Kelly, when it came to the dancing,
I mean, that was secondary for sure. That was definitely secondary.
the dancing was secondary. I said in one of the episodes that I remember looking around when he like split us up into groups and he's like, I'm putting people together based on how you're gonna get cut. And I'm like, wait, there's like the little white girls group. There's the like the tall, beautiful, dark skinned girls, you know, Danash and Taquita, and I think they had Juanita in that group. And then I was like, wait, who's this group? I'm with Kelly and I'm with Cindy and I don't really understand. And then he walked up to us and he was like, yeah, y'all can't dance. As you know, I need you to like, subscribe right on down there. Go ahead and hit subscribe now if you haven't done it yet. He's like, I can only teach one person to dance.
Man,
And so
I
y'all
used
gonna
to
have to
do.
figure it out. I was like, oh, that's the group that I'm in. Got it. The non-dancer.
It really had me so blown too, though, because I did come from a dance background. Like in the Bay, I was in a dance troupe from a young age called Culture Shock.
Yeah.
We had two names, and we performed for the president at the Oakland Coliseum. Like I really came from a hip hop dance, not a
Yeah.
ballet or jazz trained background. A lot of those young women did have like formal dance training, and I never had that. But I
Yeah.
was like, man, they're really trying to play me. Like I know. But it was hard to get those steps. I mean, with Lorianne, just like boom, cat, boom, boom, and cat.
Listen.
You got that? And we're like, no, actually.
I'm like, no, I actually don't. I don't have it at all. Okay, so speaking of background, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
20 years ago, can you believe it's been 20 years? 20 years ago, we did this show. What was happening in your life at that time? How did you hear about this show? Take me through the journey of getting to New York.
Okay. So at that time I was at UCLA. I was running track. My best friend on the track team, Kristen, we called her Kiki, but Kristen, she actually had recently found out that she was pregnant, right? And she called me one night and she was like, I saw Puffy say that he's going to do a casting call all across the country for the next band, and I think you should be in it. And I was like, um, I don't really want to be in a band. And I was already doing music in church. So I already had real bands, real musicians and real bands that I worked with, that we had a songwriting crew that we were going around LA doing music, or singing praise and worship for the big churches and also for a lot of the singers out there. So I was already plugged in musically with a lot of producers and artists and young talented musicians. And I was like, I'm not really like, I couldn't see myself in a girl group that was modeled after, like, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and these type of pop groups. So it really wasn't in my vision or expectation. But knowing that she was pregnant and I was supposed to be the godmother of the child, she was like, you just have to honor me, like, just please go. And I was like, but I really don't really want to be in a girl group like that. And she's like, well, maybe it's just a divine appointment, like somebody you're going to meet when you go there. But I just please go for me, sis. Like, I'm pregnant. And I knew better, even at that young age. Like, you don't ignore or dismiss the visions of a pregnant woman, of a mother or a mother to be, because those are the vessels that really are hearing from God. I mean, she was right. I could not believe it. So my mother drove me. I went back to the Bay. I was in LA. I went back to the Bay for the audition. My mother drove me in her car to the audition, dropped me off. I thought I was just maybe going to sing a song and maybe I would meet someone that I knew or someone to do some production with. And I really could not believe it that I just kept making every cut. So I got a call back and then they're like, boom, we want you to come for a second audition. We want to fly you to New York. And from there, and I was really shocked every time that I made the cut, because it wasn't something that I per se wanted to do or the way I wanted to go into music. And it wasn't something that I had a big draw to, but she was right,
Yeah.
And so I was really just mystified. And before I knew it, we were there in Harlem.
Well, that's where we met him. Yeah, in Harlem at the Apollo Theater.
Apollo, at the Apollo.
Got three more names. Number 16, Juanita. Kelly.
Yes.
I mean, this was like a dream to me. It was all going by so fast, and I just kept picking up the phone and calling her like, "Girl, you were right. Like, I don't know how this is happening." It was really like a dream. It was really.
So I didn't realize you left college too to do this.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. What year were you?
I was in my second year.
Wow. Okay, we gotta come back to that, because I just, was talking about the period of time when I left the show, went back home, and then came back to the show. So I'm excited to get into that, because that was really tough for me to navigate, and hearing that you went through something similar is fascinating. So you have what I hear is you do have a background in music, dancing, and growing up singing in the church. So there's all the talent bursting out. You're in college, you're an athlete. Hello. So you given multiple callings, I hear. And then you end up in this space, and it is feeling like, how did I get here?
Yeah, what is this? Where am I? I was really mystified. So coming into the space, I was rooted in such a strong sisterhood across the board. So I know what sisterhood is. I know what love is. I know what friendship is. Like you, I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of five. Got four younger siblings, and four of us are girls. And then I had my track team, women I sang with. I had such a strong community of sisters behind me that actually pushed me to come do the show, that when I got there, I was really shocked, because I had never been in a situation ever in my life where people were playing for the cameras, where, I mean, granted, I was in LA, but I was studying. I was at UCLA and I was running track. So I was really like locked into such a strong sisterhood that it was very strange for me to come there and not feel the realness across the board. And we were being, transported here and there, constantly separated and thrown into this competition. And from the jump, people were, I guess, trying to click up for as a way for survival, but I didn't feel like the love there. It was pretty cutthroat, and it was pretty like, I had a hard time connecting with anybody for real until we lived some life together, and we went through some things, So that was.
I was gonna say, speak to that, when what this show felt like for you. Any specific memorable moments you have when you're thinking back to different interactions with different girls from the show, or with the mentors, what comes to mind?
Some things that come to mind was when we were first in that loft in Soho. I remember Amber and I really connected because they're both from the Bay, and Amber's just so sweet and so funny. So we were kicking it. We would hang out, talk, and we would do makeup together, doing each other's makeup. And there was that sisterhood there. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and I think it was right after we had all just came back from singing on the corner, and we had just finished that challenge. I think my group had won the challenge of however many tips we had got. And all of a sudden, Miss Aubrey O'Day, I don't know this girl from a bag of chips, and she's sitting in my lap. She literally came and sat in my lap, and I'm just like, whoa. She's like, oh, hi, like, nice to meet you. And I'm like, hey. It just felt very strange to me and very like competitive in the not good way. Like I really wanted us to have a chance to like actually band together, know each other, and develop some real bonds. But the type of schedule they had us on and the way that it was contrived from the beginning. See, like a lot of people don't know this, but the returning season, they were already in contract, like Aubrey, Andrea, and maybe a couple others. So technically, we were really looking at what, 3 spots? And maybe Shannon was already, I think, in contract too. So we were looking
I'm
at.
hearing this. So let's get into that because I have had viewers of Storytelling with Dominique Renee speak on that, and I was out of the loop. Like I've heard that Shannon was with Johnny Wright's camp and kind of had this guaranteed spot that people always spoke to Aubrey and Andrea specifically because they came from that first season, and there was somebody else who I heard was in a similar position. Even Amber was like, apparently there was a plan to put her in the band until they found out that she had children. And so I'm like, how did y'all even learn about these whisperings of people having secured spots in the band?
Well, I heard that from Andre Harrell because after, rest in peace to Andre Harrell.
Yes, that part.
He told me after the show had ended, because some of us, probably like yourself as well, some of us they kept around. Some of us they kept around either to write or to develop or wanting to manage. And from my knowledge, you, Chelsea, and me were specifically 3 people who, like Andre, for example, had interest in developing for different reasons. So I heard this later on. And just years and years, and then afterwards being in the industry, I realized these platforms, a lot of times, they are launching pads. So you have to have some framework of what it is that you're building. And I mean, all of this is allegedly because I have no proof. This is what I was told by Andre.
And I can't wait to get into all of that. We are definitely getting into that. But getting back to our time in that moment for a second, do you have a most memorable experience from our time filming that show? Positive or negative?
Most memorable. My most memorable moments were all off camera, girl. Like I'm trying so hard.
Still, no, it doesn't have to be something that aired. I mean, we filmed for so long, and then what happened on the editing floor happened. But the moments that came from Chelsea and Amber were not moments that actually aired.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but we were getting per diem. We were like barely getting paid. Y'all have to understand, we were getting paid like $100 or less per week. Maybe not even including or excluding taxes. Like we were getting pennies for our presence, our image, our time and participation. And it was all for the dangling carrot of maybe you'll be in this band and you'll get worldwide exposure. So there was no contract given to us that said how many hours a day we needed to be there. So I left. I don't know if you remember this, but I left to go discover New York City. Like I was gone all the time. Every time we did not have a challenge, I felt so uncomfortable not knowing what was real because I could sense that some things were contrived and I couldn't put my finger on it. And it very well may have just been the format that we were in, thinking that we were all, we were having an equal competition basically to join this group. But really there was, I think, probably 2 spots open for those of us who were not already in some form of contract or dealings with, the people that were on the show, whether it was Johnny Wright or was his name Doc Holliday? Yeah, or with Puff. It was like I couldn't put my hand on it, but it was like I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel comfortable. And so I kept leaving. And I would take off my headset and the tape and I would put it up by the door and I would leave. And I have friends in New York City too. So like Charlie Villanueva, who had been my friend for I think already a year and a half or 2 years at that
Girl,
point.
is that the NBA player?
Yes.
Let me tell you, girl. So the other day I was talking to a very close friend of mine who is having a family member dealing with alopecia. And I said, "Ooh, I'm having a vague memory right now of hanging out with an NBA player when I was doing Making the Band who had alopecia." And I was like, I like Googled him. I'm trying to remember who this person is
Yes.
and why he was hanging around with us. And I literally was like, was that Kelly who was
Yes.
friends with him?
Yes, that's my dog, man. Charlie has had my back since the first day we met. We actually met through a recruiting trip he took to UCLA, and they used to pair the athletes up with incoming athletes, and we had
Yeah.
played basketball with some of my track girls. And when I tell you, we were like this. We were.
He was
since-
very nice to us. I
Oh,
mean,
he-
through
so
you, of
cool.
course, you know. Yeah.
He's so kind, but like that's my dog. So I was like, well, if I'm in New York, I want to go see New York City. I've never been here before. I want to go get on the subway. I want to go kick it with my friends. So honestly, the most memorable experiences I had there were not necessarily during the show. I mean, there's a lot of moments that stand out to me, but
Yeah.
I just kept leaving. And
Yeah.
apparently the production told me that after our season, they actually wrote in clauses for the rest of reality TV how many hours you're allowed to be there and how many hours you need to leave. Because I would
Not
make
Kelly,
sure.
not them making up a Kelly law.
Okay. I would just be out and I could hear them on the headphones too. Cause you know, you
Yeah, I
take
was
it
like,
off.
did you get caught with production? Did you get caught? Did you have conversations with them behind closed doors? Like, what happened as a result of you just disappearing?
Well, I mean, I'm an Aquarius, right? We're all about freedom. So I believe one time Leola, who I love, God bless Leola, she was so good to us. She
She
came
really
outside.
was.
She came outside and she was like, "Oh, Kelly, you know, you might want to stay. There's things that happen." I said, "I don't see anywhere in this contract that says how many hours we have to be here. And if I get a free trip to New York City, I'm going to hang out with my people." Like, so a lot of my memorable moments were like just cruising around, going on the subway, you know, going hanging out with Charlie and his brothers and his family and his friends. And that's where I felt
Wow.
safe. That's where I felt connected. So as time went on, you know, I was there for every challenge, you know, but I was trying to get out because I felt like people were fighting for no reason. Then all of us got on our cycle at the same time, which happens when you put women in the same group for long enough. And so people would just be getting at each other, getting mad. And I wasn't used to that. I really was used to like locked in sisterhood. And so this was this foreign to me, you know. It was a beautiful experience, but like a lot of my most memorable moments were not on camera. And that's why I feel like I didn't really get a chance to bond with you or other people, but I almost felt like it was like people trying to like, I don't know, just everybody was living for the camera.
It's so interesting that you say that because it speaks so much to my own soul, my own core, and who I am, right? And I often, in speaking about my experience on the show, talk about the fact that I felt like I just showed up there. And I've said to folks, this underdog storyline that was built around me, I think was able to be built because I just showed up as myself. Right?
Yes.
I feel like
Yes.
all I could give them was what I had. I had never had an experience like this before, right? So especially when we were filming, I didn't know what editing would look like. I didn't know that so much of what we did would be cut out and it would just become this little packaged, you know, 9-10 episode thing. And so I just showed up as myself, and I think it put me behind the ball a little bit. It's interesting that when you were talking about energy and feeling off with girls, that Aubrey is the person you mentioned. When asked about my experiences with the girls, that is one of the people who I mentioned, and let me tell you, her fans eat me up. Her fans be eating me up for just speaking my truth. I don't have anything negative to say about her. And I say that because it felt like we were there in two different headspaces, right? I'm just here being myself, trying to win the competition. She is also obviously trying to win the competition, but it felt like when cameras are on me, this is what you get. When cameras are not on me, it may be a different thing, right? Like I can turn it on and off depending on who I'm around, depending on what the circumstance is, depending on, if cameras are rolling. And that just isn't my vibe. And I think created this oil and water thing with us. I'm not coming for the lady. I'm just speaking about what my experience was. So I find it fascinating that that is the person that you mentioned in a similar light.
Yeah, well,
Which
yeah, I mean, it very much felt like that. It was like we got this one vocal tone in person when cameras were not off, and then when they're on, she just brightened up. And I learned a lot from watching her. I have nothing bad to say about her either. Like you said, oil and water. But then you and I too, we're also, the oldest or some of the eldest of a family of a lot of kids. Those girls were so nasty. They did not clean up their dishes. They did not clean up their tampons in the bathroom. Girl, I did not want to be in that household because to me, I don't know if you remember the one time this never aired, but the one time I got into it with a whole group of girls was about the kitchen and the dishes. I was like, how can y'all live like this? This is the third time I've cleaned up everybody's dishes today. We don't have a maid. Like, that's why I didn't want to be in the house. It was like, it was a lack. I mean, they were all young too, and everybody's raised differently, but it's like the hygiene wasn't there, the realness wasn't there. And those are the things that are like the most important to me. Like, cleanliness is next to godliness, and then being who you are, making room for you to have your perspective and have your truth. And I just felt like I couldn't get past this fake, I'm going to be friends with you when the camera's on. And then when it's off, they're just hating and they're just doing this other. So, girl, I was out as much as I could be. I was out. And I remember putting my headset down one time. I was leaving to go get on the subway and probably go link up with Charlie and his brothers or whatever. And they were going to go take me bowling, I think in the Bronx. Yeah. And I remember Leola came outside and she was like, oh, you might want to stay. There's a lot of stuff we get to build the stories. I was like, no, sis, I'm out. I don't see anywhere in this contract that says how many hours we got to be here. And she was so sweet. She was like, well, okay. And that's what I would do. I just take that tape off, take the headset off, put it by the phone, and I was just out.
Even that awareness though, like to hear you say, look, this ain't in my contract, I can do what I want to do, like it helps me reflect on how naive I was at that time. And I'm not, I don't have any shame about it. This is 20-year-old Dominique, you know what I mean? Right. But I'm like, people have I'm like, I don't even know what I signed. I'm just like, yes, I guess I'm doing, once I got through those first couple of auditions, I got invested and I was like, okay, like life signed away. Let's see what happens. And so it's interesting to hear you say that. Chelsea talked about sneaking off, to go and call her kids and hiding her mic and all those things. And I guess at that time I was just following the rules because I don't remember having any experiences like that. I did leave, but the cameras followed me. The cameras came back to Highbridge. Girl, I'm from Highbridge in the Bronx. Look it up if you want to know more. Yes. Okay. Highbridge is, let me say, not a joke. Okay. I am very proud to be from there. It's near Yankee Stadium. Anyway, I went to Highbridge with Taquita. Oh my God. I can't believe this. I went to Highbridge with Taquita. I took her back to my hood. And it was an experience. First of all, Taquita was a lot, okay? In all the right ways. From Detroit, and again, cut from that similar, I'm going to show up as myself no matter what it means. Cloth, right? You come to mind. I come to mind. Taquita definitely comes to mind as someone who's like, absolutely, y'all gonna get Taquita and decide if you with that or not. And the cameras came with us. So I actually was like, again, naive and thinking, y'all gonna show, I'm bringing y'all to my hometown and showing you what it's about in the BX and all of that. And then none of it aired. I was so disappointed. We went to Nelson Park, which is like the playground or the park with the basketball courts and all that, in my neighborhood. And like my friends were there and they got to meet Taquita, and Taquita's wildin', okay? Yes, being Taquita. Course. And always. My friends are loving it. And it was just such a good time. I believe we actually went to my grandmother's house. Like, I just knew that part of my life was going to end up on TV. And I was actually really disappointed that it didn't.
I am too. That would have been much better TV than whatever it is that aired. I was so flabbergasted and disappointed about what aired and what didn't. I was also It was a crash course in learning how anything you say can and will be used out of context just to make a story. And we were naive. We were 19, 20, young, we didn't know, but like a lot of times, we would say things at a completely different time and place about a different subject, and just to get to build a story around it, they would clip in something that we said about a completely different subject and apply it to this other subject. And that actually reminds me, the way they did me dirty with the Nosh, man, that hurts me to this day, because
Oh, let me tell
she's
you,
she's
we
another
gotta talk
talented.
about this. We
Yes,
gotta
she's
talk,
an.
and I'm gonna tell you why we gotta talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play about my people.
Yes.
And I will say, Danash was so tremendous to me on that show. I was 20 years old. I was a baby, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have perspective, especially in this field.
Oh
And
yeah.
she was probably the complete opposite, right? She's a little
Mm-hmm.
older than me. She's been in the industry. She's worked with the juggernauts of the industry,
Oh yeah,
including
she's in the
Puff,
she's in the
right?
Rock the Boat video. I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
including
yeah.
Puff himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way she showed up and didn't have to, as a big sister in that space, as a mentor, as a guide,
Mm-hmm.
I was so angry. I was angry at the way she was portrayed. And I was there, so I knew all of the, I knew you and Danash, regardless of how they showed it on television, I knew how you and Danash connected and moved. And she was deeply, deeply impacted by this experience and by the way she was portrayed. And I often find myself caping for her in my comments or in my DMs when people are like, "Oh, was Danash really a villain? Was Danash really so
Not at
mean?" And
all.
da 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 da. And I'm like, I can't wait to have her on this show. We are literally trying to pare down on a date right now because
Mm.
it is so important. It is so important for people to hear directly from her who she
Yes.
was on that show, how she showed up on that show, and how her life was impacted by the editing that portrayed her as a villain. Because that's what happened.
Oh
That's what
yeah.
happened. I'm
Man, well,
so glad you brought it up.
when she gets on here, first of all, send her my love and my apology. I've already had a chance to apologize to her in person multiple times, because we were on a couple panels in LA together, like I think with Jennifer Hudson, who's another person I knew from being on. I was on American Idol that same season too. So J Hud and I knew each other from way back then too. And I had a chance to face and say, Danash, I did not say those things about you in that context. They cut full sentences. So what they would do is they would prompt you. They're trying to build a story, right? And honestly, we've already said this, but much of the storyline was built around Aubrey's perspective, because they knew she was going to be a continued part of this franchise. And so she was really having a problem with Danash. I read the situation from being in music with bands and stuff. She was definitely uh, way up higher in the industry than anyone there. She had more experience in both singing and dancing. She was a lovely to all of us. She was responsible. She was just a top contender in every level, intelligent and beautiful and badass. And I respected the fact of what she was trying to do. At the same time, the way she was going about it in this one specific group that we had in this one specific challenge, she was coming in like the big sister, but it was like herding cats. And like Jasmine, who beautiful as all get out, I mean, absolutely drop dead gorgeous, but she could not sing at all. She knew that. She could not sing. She wasn't a singer. She got there based on her personality, her looks, and she could dance apparently. But she was not a singer. She didn't come from like what we came from. So it was very difficult to try to do a vocal performance with people who don't sing. And Danash would get frustrated, and Aubrey wanted to be like the HBIC, and Danash was taking that position. I respected it. If you actually were to pay attention to clips and see, I would be sitting there watching her and listening. When they
I
brought
saw
us in,
that.
when
And we were there. I
we were
knew
there.
that.
And when they brought us to the editing room, they bring up, this is how they prompt you. They say, so we noticed a lot of tension within the group, da 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 da. we noticed real tension happening between, Aubrey and Dinosh. They literally would say this to you, and they would say, what are the perspectives that that you see? What is it that you feel? And I would say something like, well, first of all, like I've just said, Dinosh is extremely talented and knowledgeable and more experienced in this, and everybody should be taking a lead from her. But the way she's going about it with some of these girls who have no experience is like, it's Dinosh and the she's. It's like she's the head of the band and everybody else is just around her. And the girls aren't feeling that. So I would say something, a full thought like that. And they would take out one part where I'm like, Dinosh and the she's. And then they would air that. And I was mortified. I was like, how are you all going to do me like this and play me against her like that? Like, it literally take a bite of a clip of something you've said, take it completely out of context.
This is what I mean when I say to folks, we crawled so they could walk, because
Yes.
we were in the early stages of reality TV. We had no idea. We had no idea. You had Real World. There were a couple of things that came before Making the Band.
Right.
But our show was a pioneer in the realm of reality TV. And so nowadays, I feel like that. I feel like you can't watch reality TV today and not know they gonna cut and slice
Yes.
and dice
Yes.
to bring the drama and to make it something that people want to tune into.
Right.
But our little tender young selves, I wasn't ready for that.
And especially not building the story around, like, for example, Aubrey's perspective or her feelings, which is what I felt like that got engineered to do a lot. They would ask you a question specific to that, you would answer it, and then they would cut it as if it was your thoughts toward a person, and there was no going back, because that went out to the masses. I mean, we were household names for that couple of years of our life. And I think the reason why making our season was such a big time in reality TV is because you had the Real World and stuff like that. And then you had the first Making the Bands, which was all basically hip hop. So almost more of like a BET, almost more of a black focused crowd, right? And Making the Band with the girl group, it kind of brought together the pop white culture, pop white, middle America, everybody could relate, and then also black culture, and it put it into this framework of a TV show that was supposed to be the next girl group of the planet, of the globe, So it was larger than life, and it was people coming, girls, young women coming together from all over the country, from totally different walks of life. And that could have been a really interesting and beautiful thing had they aired your hometown, had they aired the truth of our stories, instead of gearing it around the specific personalities that they already had in contract. Because once again, I don't hold back on what I feel or say, but the three that I believe were already in contract, to me, those are not interesting stories. All love to you, Andrea. All love to you, Shannon. All love to you, Aubrey. And Aubrey knows how to give the drama, so don't get me wrong. There's a lot to be learned from Aubrey. But those are not three stories that me particularly, like, I want to tune into. And I never really felt that their commitment to each other or friendship was even that deep or real either. So what interested me was you and your story. My story was very similar to yours at the time. We will get into that. But nobody knew because I was gone the whole time. The stories that interested in me was Cowie and Taquita. They were freaking hilarious. I mean, the stories that interested me were the days in Miami where we all went out into the ocean together with Lorianne, and we just had the most beautiful day. That was the only day that I really finally felt the solidarity between all of the girls that were there. We had just been doing all these challenges and a lot of pressure, and we all just had this beautiful day together to go swim in the ocean, and the sunset was going down, and we were actually swimming in those warm waves until it was nighttime. And it was the first time I felt like, wow, these are my sisters, these are my girls. Like, we've been through some things now. We done traveled from here to there, all across the country. That was the first moment I really felt like, okay, I wouldn't mind being in a band. I could get into this.
I've spoken about how there was an energy shift. When we got down to those last, 11, 10, 12 girls, there was an energy shift that was positive, that I felt it from production. I felt it from the mentors. I felt an energy shift that did make it a place that you were like, oh, okay, I can breathe a little bit. I want to be here. These my girls. Let's figure it out. So yes. I definitely felt that. I'm just thinking so much about this piece around things being predestined or predetermined and us not knowing that, the more I hear about it, the more it makes me sad. Not for not making the band, girl, my life. Okay.
Yes.
Not for not making the band, but for how much this experience, this opportunity meant to so many young women. I mean, not even just the 18 of us who joined the three from the previous and went into the house, but like there were 10,000 girls. There were 10,000 girls across the country who tried out for making the band, and if the alleged is true, that just makes me sad because people were really out here gunning for those spots. And, it makes me sad, and it speaks to the realities of the entertainment industry and how there's always a Wizard of Oz faking it behind the curtain. Like there's just, that's around every corner in this industry. And so now, right, 40-year-old Dominique gets that and understands that. But man, 20-year-old Dominique had no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, informed consent is such a huge part of our basic divine birthright, our human rights. And whether you're talking about the media, politics, or the music industry, there is so much that is behind the curtain. There is so much that is pre-planned, predestined, and controlled and manipulated by the hidden hand. And we're out there with our hearts on our sleeve. And I remember I told you I kept leaving, and I didn't trust it all the way, so I didn't want my story. But it was paining my heart the way they pinned. You and I never went against each other, first of all, even though they put us in the same group. We always showed love to each other. When we hugged,
every single time.
When we hugged, it was real. I didn't want to win against you of all people. We were both heavier on the vocals than the dance for sure. But I just felt like, nobody knew my story. My story mirrored yours. It just was East Coast and West Coast. It was like Pac and Biggie in the realest way. I mean, we were both in college, taking a break from college to do this. We're both the oldest in our family, single mothers. My mother was struggling. My stepfather, who's the father of the youngest three, had fallen to his drug addiction. So I was just like you, a young singer with the hope that if I could just make this band, I could provide for my younger siblings and my mother. I could maybe, find a way to get a placement or get something to give her money for a down payment on a house. That was my heart of hearts. But did I want the world to know that while I was there? No, I didn't trust it. I didn't know. And in a way, I'm glad I didn't. But at the same time, I wish that, we had more chance to vibe, because we were mirrors in more ways than one. Yeah. When we went to Florida, was it? And your mama showed up and we got wind of what she was going through. I was sitting here like, man, if only I could tell Dominique.
That was in DC. That was in DC.
Oh, in DC, yes. Yeah. In DC. I was like, man, if only I could tell her that my mom and my family is going through the exact same thing. I mean, while we were there, they had to pack up and leave and move like 300 miles because of the dysfunction and the trauma that was happening back home. So you and I were so similar in more ways than one. We were going hard with the gifts that God gave us. We were hoping that we could contribute something to our family. Mm-hmm. And we were really believing that we had an equal shot at it, when really there was only 2 spots.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so wild. And we were both finalists.
Yeah, I know.
We both made it to that moment. So talk to me a little bit about what happened. I mean, I remember being completely shell-shocked when they came to us and were like, yeah, go home. We're going to send you home so that you can't tell anybody who's in the band. And they didn't tell us when they were calling us back. They didn't tell us what the procedure was. I was shell-shocked by that. Mm-hmm. How did that impact you? What did you do in the 3 months when we got sent home as finalists before they actually chose the band?
So in those 3 months, I had just said my mom had to pack up and move to a completely different place. She went to Redding, California, where we're from the Bay Area. And so when I went home, took care of my younger siblings. They were very, very young at the time. They were still, my baby sister Rose was only 2 or 3 years old or something like that. My baby sister Vanessa was 6. My brother was 11 or 12. And then my sister Lizzie, I think she had just gotten, I think she was at Penn, UPenn, playing soccer. I just went home to love on my mom, and I got to spend some good time with my family. I ran every day because that's the other similarity that we have. They kept telling us to lose weight. And I was just like, from, like you said, from where though? Like, first of all, I'm 5'8". A lot of the girls were 5'4" and under. You look at those videos and pictures of me, and I was not overweight, neither were you. We were just bigger builds or bigger bones, but not, there was no weight to lose. So I was like, dieting, restricting calories, and then running every day, which is what I knew to do from track.
I'm a little in awe. Everybody's got a story.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got a story, and they don't have to look the same for folks to be deeply impacted by their roots, by their trauma, by, the things that they have to overcome, etc. But wow, to have
Right.
been walking this path with you, have similar images on the show. Good singers, folks who struggle with dance, maybe you need to lose a little weight. And to learn only today, in this moment, that, you just talked about your siblings' ages. My twin siblings were 2. My sister after that was 4. My brother after that was maybe 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one was probably 12 or something. Like, wow. Yes, I am the oldest of all 6 of us. I have more siblings on my dad's side. I have 14 siblings altogether. Because y'all were there when my mom literally told me that she was homeless that day, and I had to ride on the tour bus back to New York with you guys. But I didn't even talk to folks when I went back to the show about everything that was going on at home, because it was so wild. Like,
Yeah.
I have people in my life now, people I love, people who I've literally now had 20-year relationships with, who ain't got nothing to do with making a band, college and beyond, who are like,
Mm-hmm.
girl, I had no idea
Yeah.
that your family was homeless the summer between freshman and sophomore year of college. I mean, I'm like, yeah, I mean, what, I'm gonna just walk in COM 101 class and be like, I ain't got nowhere to live? Like,
Right. Right.
where is that supposed to come up?
Right.
So
Right.
it is just really, I'm just having a moment. I got chills while you were talking, because I'm like, wow, I'm sitting next to this young queen, and we going through some of the same stuff and really have no idea.
Yeah.
It just makes me more grateful to be in this moment with you right now, and to be
Yes.
able to reconnect. We stayed in touch. We did the Facebook thing when Facebook got,
Yes.
popping.
Uh-huh.
And I'm very, very grateful to be in this moment with you, and to know that we've shared some similar lifey things.
Yeah. Some similar heartache and some similar formative experiences. I knew
Yeah.
more about you. I mean, because of that episode, and we all kind of caught wind, and also because Mr. Andre Harrell, the star maker himself, rest in peace, he kept, he was very much in contact with me, because what people don't know is a lot of us were on the sidelines being developed or asked to do management or deals or whatnot, by some of these individuals. And so I knew that we had parallel stories, and Andre knew too. And so he would also keep me updated about you, girl. And he was just like, Dominique, that girl is it, child. She is it. She has got it. And I'm like, I know. And, he used to talk about that a
Wow.
lot. Matter of fact, some of those times when I would leave, I would go out and Andre would take me down. Lord, I do not remember names and I do not know where we were, but he used to take me to these little under clubs or little restaurant bar type cocktail lounges. So I
I
literally
had
thought,
some similar experiences with Andre.
yes, okay. To be honest, even for the many years after that, that he was developing me, and he was good to me. He was very good to me. So
Yeah, I hear
so
you.
I stayed connected also to your story through him as well, because he used to say that we remind him of each other in terms of our heart and our story, but the world didn't know that, and TV
Yeah.
didn't know
I
that.
didn't
I
know
just knew
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So Take me to the moment when we are on that rooftop. We had just gotten those beautiful, beautiful makeovers.
Yes.
And the name of the band members are announced, and you don't hear Kelli.
Remember, I turned and hugged somebody. I think it was Juanita, because I always wanted Juanita to win. We knew some of the same cast from Atlanta too, but I didn't have too much time to think about anything else because as soon as they turned the camera very abruptly to let them do their performance, Capricorn and Diddy's staff came over to me and pulled me to the side and were like, "We want you to stay. We want you to work with our hitman, with our producers." They knew that I knew a couple of them already from the church circuit in LA, and they wanted me to stay in New York and to, develop or see if I wanted to do songwriting, if I wanted to be in the production crew. So I didn't have much time to think about anything. I mean, it was literally like the camera turned and then Capricorn and some of Puff's entourage, the bodyguards and stuff were right there with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you?
So,
What was it like for you?
okay. Well, I am saving some of it for my future episodes and for my book. What did you do with all of that?
So Capricorn and them, same thing. Don't leave town. We want to work with you. They offered to put me up in I don't know, a hotel or a penthouse or something. I don't know. I always go with my heart and my intuition. I said, okay, well, I have a cousin who stays in New York right now. My cousin Jack Keene. His father, my Uncle Bert Keene, also rests in peace with all my heart and all my love. Uncle Bert was the closest thing to a father I ever had. I didn't know my father growing up at all. He wasn't in my life, didn't even know really who he was. And my Uncle Bert took me under his wing, especially when I got into music, because he had worked for Warner Brothers years ago. He was Prince's first, I guess, road manager. He worked with John Lennon. He worked with Madonna. He worked with the greats. And he got out of the business because of how corrupt it was. And when I started taking off musically, even before making the band, when I was doing little stuff locally in LA, he pulled me aside and said, "Kelli, you are swimming with sharks." And I'm talking about, I can't even tell you how bad some of these people are that you are probably around. So you need to keep yourself safe, and call me at any point if you need advice. But you need to follow your instincts at all times, because every place you are swimming with sharks. And that's all he said to me. Remember, we were so young, but he gave me that warning. So when they asked me to stay and offered me to put me up somewhere, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel comfortable. And so I called my cousin Jack and I said, "Can I stay with you while I, talk about this possible deal?" And he said, "Of course, come on over." So we called our uncle. He kind of ran me through how to handle it. He said, "Do not let yourself get put up in any hotels or any places. Do not put yourself in any position where you are on their tab, where the flight, the car, where you are not in control of how you're getting to and fro, and where you are somewhere on a promise of some type of money or deal." So I stayed with my cousin in a little tiny little studio for maybe 2 weeks or so. And every day I'd go back over to, what was it called? Bad Boy Studio? Was that it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so
I know the studio was Daddy's house.
Daddy's house.
Yeah.
I'd go over there. I would work with the productions there. I did a bunch of backups for the records that Danity came out with later.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a lot of ghostwriting and ghost backups and harmonies throughout the rest of my career as well. So we worked up a couple songs. We did some things. I was also offered a demo deal a number of times from Bad Boy, but the things that Puff was trying to give me, I already had. Like I had already had ASCAP Publishing for a couple years, just for things I had worked on with friends in LA. I remember one specific, Nissan Stewart, who was another pastor's kid and a very talented musician, and he was already in contract with the Hitman, which is what they wanted to do with me too, and put me on as a production, one of the crew. And they were just like, Kels, don't sign the contracts, read the contracts, don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you from being in the contract, don't do it. So I would look at these things and I would see things like options. I would see things like right of refusal. And throughout the rest of my time in the music business, I would see these 3 words that haunted me every freaking deal: forever, in perpetuity. And I would laugh and I would say, how can I promise y'all forever in perpetuity on anything, whether it's a licensing of a song or
Well,
whether
pause
it's
and explain what that means to people.
when you sign a contract with somebody, there has to be a contract term. And a term could be a day, a week, a month. It could be a number of creative intellectual property or creative productions that you create. You have to fulfill that either time limit or that term. You have to fulfill that number of promises of commitments, is what it's called. That means that they want to own the licensing or the rights of this project or of you in general forever in perpetuity. And this is something, the first thing I noticed on these contracts, but it plagued me or followed me throughout my whole time in the music industry, which went on another 12 years. I said, who is this immortal being that wants my rights forever in perpetuity? And they would laugh at me, but they wouldn't change it. And so I wouldn't sign.
So my question for you is, how did you, if you didn't sign any contracts with Bad Boy, let's go with that first, for example, because that was the immediate thing after the show, and you were working with the girl. So you were working with Danity Kane after they were formed.
No. I didn't work with them. I worked on the material that they used. So there was some songs.
Gotcha. So like if they bring a cover song to them, you may have laid down some of the background vocals, and then they kept those background vocals when the actual song came out.
Specifically, like one of the songs that we sang in the show, and forgive me for not remembering all this, it's been a long life, been life and since too, but there's backgrounds in that even Christina Aguilera had sang at one point.
Oh, that was
And
the something about you that really got me feeling weak.
yes,
That ended up being on the Diddy Dirty Money project.
yeah, so they used my backgrounds on that and other just little one-offs. And then
Yeah.
a bunch of songs that were just ideas or submissions. The industry is a machine. It takes the ideas of any creative people that are around, and then it erases the person from the idea, especially if you're not in contract. So I kid you not when I say that I have been on dozens of songs, whether in the creation process, the backgrounds, the writing, up to the whole song, including two number two hits that went around the world for Leona Lewis and Rihanna. And I was a ghostwriter. I was a ghost singer on the background. And the crazy thing is the artist would never even know that I existed. However,
Yeah.
when they're in their session with some of the writers that are already in the deal, they'll bring them the idea and then they'll go ahead and finish it. So that's what ends up happening with a lot of talent, a lot of writers and singers who end up getting shelved, but their ideas go on. Their
Yeah.
ideas get legs and wings and become something. And I was okay with it because I felt like that was proof of my God-given talent, but I was still free. So usually I get like $500 or I
That's
get
what I was gonna say. This did you're not signing a contract, but you are giving a service. Did you get paid from Bad Boy at all?
not from Bad Boy, no. But from other labels and from other projects later on, yes.
How
You
many
did.
years were you engaging and doing this background stuff specifically with Bad Boy and Puff's Camp after the show?
I just worked with Puff's Camp creatively for about under a year after that. So when they'd
Okay.
come into town, when he did his album, he'd have a meeting with me. We'd go to Chalice, go to the studio, and I already knew. Like I said, I had angels in high and low places. I had uncles from the church who were triple OG Crips, and who were like hands off Kelly. Like that's my niece. So I had a lot of protection, but I get pulled into sessions for ideas or for background vocals. I remember I was in a few sessions with Puff at Chalice on his record with T.I. and Tiny with Nicole Schertzinger. And I remember him pulling me back to the back room in Chalice and offering me another deal, another development deal. And I remember sitting there and he just always wore his glasses, and you know what? With all due respect to everybody and anybody who has been harmed, I can honestly say that he treated me so respectfully. And I think part of it was the protections I had, just the people I knew that had their hand on me. God had his hand on me for sure, her hand on me. Um, because to me, God is a Black woman. We all come from a Black woman. So I felt very protected. She had her hand upon me through the craziest scenarios. And anyway, he was offering me another deal. He was like, I'm really sorry about, we couldn't have you in the band, but we have bigger plans for you and da 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 da. And he offered me another deal, and it was at the time it was the standard industry amount, $9,000 for a term up front for all of your living expenses and everything you need. And then they would call you in for a certain amount of commitments. And if I can remember correctly, I think it was 48 commitments at 50%, which translates to something like you have to have 96 published works before you can get out of this deal. And I was sitting there thinking, like, I said to him, I said, $9,000. I said, that'll pay rent in LA for like 3 months plus whatever I need to get to and from the studio. He's like, no, no, we'll put you up, we'll get housing for you. And I already had listened to my uncle. Don't ever put yourself in a position where someone's paying your housing. And so I was like, no, I was like, if you need help with anything, if you want me to write or sing backgrounds or whatever, I'm down. But just like, holler at me. But like, I'm not going to sign any of these 360 deals because I was listening to the elders and the brothers and the uncles that I had around me that were saying, like, how are you going to produce 96 published works, all that get placed, whether it gets placed on a Coca-Cola commercial or for Rihanna or for Mary but how for 9,000, that's all they're going to give you is this little tiny upfront money. And then you have to do so much work that becomes slave labor.
Yeah.
And I was not in this to become a slave. I was in this to sing, to give praises to the Most High for my life. Like,
Yeah.
to me, music is a very sacred art form, is not one to be played with.
One, it sounds like you were covered in so many ways. I mean, family members, close friends, church people who gave you, I would say, a lot of warnings, told you to take heed, specifically around the contractual stuff, the obligations, the things that didn't seem and didn't feel right. I was going to then go in the direction of your interactions with Puff, right? Away from contract stuff. We know this man is in the news. We know what he's accused of. The trial is around the corner. What I just heard you say is you never had any negative interactions with Puff. You were always safe with Puff.
Yeah, well,
accurate.
That is accurate. In fact, he used to bow to me. I'm not joking. When I used to come, whether it was to the studio or wherever, he'd come up to me to say hi, greet me, and he would do this and bow. And so the bodyguards who also kept in touch with me said, there's a running joke, Puff calls you a witch. And I was like,
I was going to say, because girl, you just said that and ain't nobody about to believe you when you say that.
But let me tell you
that
why.
Sean P. Diddy Combs bowed to you.
Listen, he did. He'd come up to me and bow. And the bodyguards had a running joke that Puff said I was a witch. And I was like, a witch? And they were like, like a bruja, like you have powers. And I'm like, okay. The only two reasons why I think to this day that he treated me that way is, number one, I never said yes to any of the things he asked me to do. None of the contracts, none of the VIP parties, none of the after parties. I was always like, I'm good, I'm cool. So I think on one level, he was thrown off by that. The second reason why I think he called me a witch is because in that meeting we had at Chalice in LA, I felt the intimidation. I felt him wanting me to sign and being kind of jarred that I wouldn't entertain it. And so I basically started prophesying to him, girl. I was like, look, first of all, these 360 deals are not healthy and they're not good for you and they're not good for the artist. And plus, remember at the time we had Napster and LimeWire coming out. So music was now becoming free and available. The internet was born. I said, you're not going to be able to make money off these type of deals. I said, you need to diversify. You need to start making merchandise that you can sell at festivals, like, I don't know, a drink, a beverage. I literally started prophesying to him about other ideas.
Girl.
It was funny, too, because he got right into vitamin water right after that time.
Really? I
Yes.
thought that was 50 Cent who did vitamin water.
Well, maybe it wasn't vitamin water, but didn't he do some type of water?
I remember some kind of deal. I remember some kind of deal, yeah.
It was way before the Ciroc days, girl.
Yeah.
I think that's why he called me a witch.
Yeah.
He like listened to me and thanked me. And once again, yeah, he bowed to me. And
Wow.
At one point later on, his manager said he only had seen him do that to a couple women and to his mother whenever she came around. So
Wow.
we know he was extremely creative, talented, and powerful. Now we're hearing the dark side of him. We all have our light and our dark side. But if you don't put yourself in proximity to somebody to be taken advantage of in any way, then their power has no effect on you. And I'm not saying this in any way to diminish what other people have been through, but what I'm saying is to speak to the power of no. When you don't feel right and, I don't really know if I want to go, just say no.
Yeah.
And a lot of people make fun of me at the time. I remember there was even one time in Miami where I was put up at the Sagamore. This was, when could that have been? They flew me out and put me up at the Sagamore. I can't remember, but it was the next season. But I guess that was one of Andre's favorite places, so he had me a place there. And I said to him before I went, I said, "It's my room, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." So I made sure that I closed all the locks. Well, they had invited me out to a couple parties. I went to one or two of them, and then I went back to my room, and they kept saying, "No, there's another party at Star Island or wherever it was." And I said, "I'm tired. I'm going home." They're like, "No." I went to my room and I locked all the doors. I locked all of them, even that top lock. When I tell you that at 3 or 4 in the morning, I don't even remember who it was or how they were trying to get into my room to bring me to the party, to wake me up and my door was opening and closing. And girl, I sat there and I was like, you know what? If I even entertain this right now, like let them know I'm awake, whoever that is, then it's going to be bad. They're either going to be mad I won't go or whatever. But I just put my earphones in my sleep earphones, noise reduction, and my beauty mask on, and I pretended to be asleep. And the next day, when it came time to meet up with everybody around 1 or 2 down by the beach, I played dumb. I played possum. They were like, "You didn't hear us at the door. We were trying to bring you to the party." Da, da, da. I was like, "No, I was asleep. I don't know. But why were you trying to open my door? You said that was my room." So I would just kind of find a way to decline politely and play dumb and not put myself in any position to be in a situation where more things could have happened.
Wow.
Yeah. The
So
power of no.
I will before I have many questions as a result of what you just said, but I do need to say, out of respect to any alleged victims of this man, the power of no doesn't work for everyone.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that it's
No,
the
I
grace
know
of
that.
God.
I know
Yeah.
that. I know that. And you
Yeah.
are covered, and I am covered, and I am grateful. I
Yes.
just, and this doesn't even just apply to Puff. I
Oh,
am thinking of victims in all circumstances of any form of sexual violence, domestic violence, etc., etc. Baby, everybody ain't got the privilege or the power of saying no.
right.
And so I just send love and light to all of those people.
I send love and light to every woman, every artist, every victim of all types of violence that are a part of this industry. And I can speak to that in a much more vulnerable way to say that later on in my career, I definitely found that out, the other side of it. It was a treacherous game I had to play because I had to do a lot of like creative thinking to deflate the egos of those who would be mad that I wouldn't go there or here, and found myself in many treacherous situations and
Yeah.
scenarios, too many to name, some so treacherous that I wouldn't even want to speak of them because of the my own safety and the safety of my children and others, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so I don't take that lightly, and I'm not over here tooting my horn, but I do want to say that to all the women out there and people out there and artists out there, as much as you possibly can, stand on your square to not put yourself alone in a position, to not put yourself moved from one place to the next. And that is a level of protection.
Yeah.
So in no
It's
way am I making myself greater. And I will say that I ended up being in touch with the whole camp for many years, different bodyguards and managers and the whole. And I did find myself a victim of that too. And I won't go into it too much, but I will say this.
oh my.
I thought I was safe because I don't drink and do drugs, or at least I thought I didn't. But I believe that what they're saying about the Mickeys that were slipped to people, I believe they were in the juice mixers, like the pineapple juice or the cranberry
Whoa,
juice.
you this is a hold on now. Because this is a lot that's being said.
It is.
Without with respect to your privacy and you knowing my level of integrity and whatever want to share and don't want to share, I'm going to respect, but I got to ask because we are going to a place right now
We
that
are
is kind of
going
blowing my
there.
mind a little bit.
Yes.
One, I'm hearing you say, allegedly, right? Like there is in the news this talk of people being drugged through drinks. You are confirming that that's something that you believe was happening in the mix when you were in proximity to this camp.
Yes.
So
Yes,
you've
sir.
been to parties where maybe you think that those drinks were spiked.
For sure. My experience. So later on in my career, just from having a good rapport, a good working relationship with all these people for now years, never having gone to a Diddy party, invited to 20 or 30, never wanted to go. But I would go meet up with them. For example, I was singing backgrounds for a Panamanian group from Oakland called Los Racas, fire group. But at that time, I was singing backups for them, and they had a show in Vegas. It was one of the fight nights. So I was already in and around the industry parties. But like I said, from the beginning up until that point, I would always make sure A, I don't drink. I don't drink something that anybody hands me. And I don't go to any after parties or private hotel parties. I would just show up for the major VIP party, like at Taos or whatever, club it was, and then I would go back to the studio or back to where it was I was at. But a couple of these parties, and some of this I am just gonna block and keep let sleeping dogs lie because I ain't afraid of shit, baby. I'm just gonna let some things just be my experience and leave it at that. I know that a couple of those parties I had had just the pineapple juice. So in the VIP section, I remember Cassie was there actually. But in the VIP section, you'll have a bunch of bottles, and then they have the mixers that go with them, such as pineapple juice, grapefruit juice, cranberry juice, and then they'll mix in the alcohol. So I would either help myself to just the juice, pineapple juice and ice. And I didn't know at the time that I was being potentially drugged because I had never done drugs before.
Wow.
I had never done drugs before.
So this is with the bad boy camp.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't, I still to this day can't confirm it. What I thought was happening at the time from the naivety and innocence I had, all I was drinking was pineapple juice, right? So then I'm feeling real good. And the parties go on and they go to different hotels and places. I'm feeling real good. And I'm just like, oh, well, I just must be feeling the excitement of everybody who's here in Vegas for the fight night, like, and all the people I know and people who I love. I mean, you develop a lot of good, long-standing relationships with people that you either have sang on records with or toured with. And so I'm seeing all my loved ones hugging, and I'm feeling real loving, real loving. Like these hugs are feeling extra good. Like, and I'm just like, oh, this must honestly, as naive as I was, I'm like, this just must be the joy of me walking in my purpose.
Wow.
And
Wow. Wow.
it wasn't
And
till later on, about 4 years later, when I had moved to Hawaii at this time to get off the grid from many experiences that I had in the industry. I wanted to a break. I wanted to cleanse and heal. I had family and folks on the island, so I went and I had intentionally taken some ecstasy or some Molly. And then I was like, oh my God, I
you're
know
like,
this
I was drugged.
feeling.
I was drugged. I
I
had this feeling.
Yes, I'm like, this is the exhilaration and just loving thrill that I had years ago, and I had no idea. So
Wow.
that's what
And
I
you were brought to harm
yes, I was, yes.
when you were drugged at
Well,
this party in Vegas or
I would
these
say
parties in
I would
Vegas.
say that for sure because as much as knowing myself and my character, I will say that um I found myself in situations that I in any other frame of mind had never been in before and had no interest in being in. It wasn't until many years later that for me to come to understand that this wasn't informed consent, you know. This was not me fully choosing within the full authentic power of who I am to be in certain places or go certain places or carry on in certain ways that I just never had done before and never did after. So why did I do it then? And so this is the flip side of what I was saying is, there is a power in no. But yes, there are things that happen in that industry, not just with that camp, but from the top down, from the label executives in these parties they throw, which I've heard from so many friends who have attended them, that found themselves participating in or carrying on with others or individuals in ways that they never had any desire to before or after. And to me, I've learned a lot since then about, mind altering substances that put you out of character. And then it's very confusing for these victims, I imagine, because on one hand, they feel guilty because like they participated, right? But on one hand, they're like, I didn't participate because I didn't really choose that, And luckily for me, it's nothing that I'm so wounded by or hurt or ashamed by, but it definitely opened my eyes to there's a whole lot of other stuff going on in this industry that anyone who comes with a dream, who comes with a gift, needs to know about and protect themselves.
And so in thinking about those people and what this message will do for them, one, I should clarify, I heard you say that you never came to harm at the hands of Diddy. And so I want to reassert as you talk about this situation where you did come to harm in Bad Boys Camp that it was not at the hands of Diddy.
That's correct.
I'm going to push and ask if you were assaulted physically, sexually, any of those things.
I would say that I was manipulated, and I would say that I was tricked. That's what I would say. Now, me, I'm a tomboy
And drugged. I mean,
and
like
drugged,
that. I don't want to
and
leave that out.
potentially drugged. I mean, knowing myself and after having taken substances willingly and knowingly later on, not many, just literally to try it. I was in Maui with people I love and trust, and we were all adults, and there was some Molly. It was actually sassafras Molly, a very organic derivative of like a MDMA type of a substance. And I wanted to know. That's when I realized I know this feeling. And so my hunch is that it was probably a mixture of either what they are calling that pink cocaine. It seems to me, and I don't have much experience with substances, just very limited basic experimentation. I would say that it was probably either that pink cocaine or like an ecstasy or Molly mixed with maybe like a GHB. Or
Girl,
some of
you talking about stuff I ain't never even heard of. I ain't even gonna
G-
hold you. Sound like you
GHB.
talking about some natural version of ecstasy. I ain't done a hard drug in my whole life, so I'm a little behind the ball. You giving me acronyms I ain't never heard of, okay?
Well, I would love to break it down to you, but I don't even know if then the content would be allowed to go on the internet. But
So okay, so I want to. So let me move. So this is wow. Okay, so sorry. On a more serious note, respecting. Like I said, I heard you say that you're not gonna go into too much detail about this stuff for your own safety, for the safety of your own family. You have 4 beautiful children.
Yes,
I'm not going. I respect and understand that.
Yes.
What came next?
When I found myself acting out of character, when I found myself comfortable in a situation that I was not okay with, girl, I got my skateboard. And like I told you, I still had my other bands and stuff.
This is still in Vegas.
This is in Vegas.
Okay.
Soon as I realized I had maybe had been slipped a Mickey and I was starting to participate in something that I was not comfortable with, I left. And I got on my skateboard at night from whatever hotel I was at. And I skated all the way to where my crew was, to where the Los Racas and the others that I had worked with, and I knew I was safe. After that point, though, I was pretty much like blackballed. And so I feel that my story is enough of a bridge between these experiences to say that, yeah, even when you say no, even when you try not to put yourself in those positions, there are things happening that everybody should be aware of, that people should know, and just don't ever go alone, ever.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and
Whew, girl, it's getting heavy. So
Sorry. So let's light some
no,
sage.
don't
Let's light some
apologize.
sage up in
I was
here.
gonna say, do not apologize. This is, storytelling with Dominique Renee is all about bringing truth to light and doing it in the most authentic way. Have you seen or engaged with the person who brought you to harm since these years ago?
No, ma'am. Um, I continued working, I continued writing, I continued with other deals, other tours, other projects, other people. I had the beautiful honor to sing backups for Miss Angie Stone, rest in peace. I got to sing
Wow.
backups on a gospel record by Kim Burrell, which Mariah Carey also sang backups on. I continued having a very dynamic and powerful experience. I mean, I worked with every single major label and camp that I can think of in some capacity besides Rockefeller. I never worked with Jay-Z or Beyonce, but as all the other labels and imprints on the labels, Sony, Interscope, Concord Stax, Bad Boy. I mean, the list goes on. Jermaine Dupri, he wanted to do a girl group with me and two other girls, so we were working with them out of Atlanta for a year. I mean, I worked with like
Yeah.
everybody.
So you continued all these years to remain a staple in the music industry. Uh, Give me the list of things you were writing, you were singing, what were the roles that you were playing in all
I
these
wouldn't say a
camps?
staple. I wouldn't say a staple. I'd say that I was a fundamental creative being. I worked as a ghostwriter. I worked as a backup singer, both touring. I worked as an opener, as a soloist. I had multiple development deals, 9 actually. My last studio was actually with in a Echo Park in LA with Yeti Beats, who became Doja Cat's producer. And I was the main female presence in that camp, doing backups and writing hooks and writing songs for everybody from Sizzla and reggae music to Cool Keith, like the underground rap scene. I've done so much work. I have created so much art that I have seen or heard or watched it go around the world in some type of form that it has been very fulfilling to me. I just basically never spoke of this situation ever in my life, but to you, I never spoke it to anyone.
Wow,
But
Kelly.
I do feel it's relevant because we started together and because so many people are going through this, and I have enough of a glimpse of an experience to say that I do stand with all of them. I do 100% think that what they're saying is real. I believe them. And it was just by the grace of God and the me listening to my intuition, that it didn't go further or didn't get worse. But I never spoke of it. I really kind of put it on myself. I knew better, but I had this like 7-year trust of this camp. I remember I was at the Nicki Minaj video, the one Puff helped direct. I forget what it was. It was early in her career. Same thing, and he had walked right over to me, and same thing, bowed to me and hugged me. So I really felt like, and their bodyguards had for years. Oh, Kels, like I just always felt safe with them. And the bodyguards, they actually held me down too. They were good. I
Yeah.
will say
You
that.
felt safe until you didn't feel safe.
I felt safe
You know.
until the one time I put myself in a position where I didn't have a crew with me. And
Yeah.
then that was the opportunity to see the vile behavior that does go on there. And so I stand with all the victims. So,
Yeah. I dream of a day in a world, especially as a mom of 3 daughters, where we don't have to exist like that. Where we
right.
don't have to, and I'm not even just, this is bigger than Puff, this is bigger than his camp. This is about womanhood and the
Womanhood.
lack of safety that women experience every single day. The idea that we must have a plan, we must be in groups, we must watch our drinks, we must, and of course in the music industry that's completely amplified, it's multiplied, all of that. But in life,
Mm-hmm.
the messaging that comes to us around protecting our own safety
Oh yeah.
and the lack of messaging to the male community about how they need to show up
Yeah.
is heartbreaking, really, for
It
a
is.
mom of three girls. You know, I heard
Right.
you. I was sad. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little sad to hear you taking so much credit for whatever the circumstance was. You know, we're not gonna get into the details. But I think ahead to my baby girls leaving our home one day, going off to college, going off to career, and the talks we gotta have, and the way I wanna make sure they know, I don't care what you did. I don't care if you said yes initially and then it turned into a no. I don't care if you got too drunk and ended up in a situation you shouldn't be in. It doesn't ever justify someone violating you in any way, especially if you have uttered the words no at any point,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Especially if you are incapacitated and not able to utter any words. Yeah, I just,
I'm with you, sis. As a mother, I want my children to know about the duality of this world. And I don't want
absolutely.
them, yeah, I don't want them to feel safe. It's better for them to know than to
Oh,
be like,
yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It makes me sad that we live in a world that it has to be that way, but it absolutely has to be that way. You know what I mean? I,
absolutely.
I, to- I
Yeah.
totally agree. You know, I'm in my
Yeah.
mind like how young is too young to put my kids in self-defense. Like,
Right.
like my
Yes.
brain goes to that place based on just
Absolutely.
my own, life experiences. I want you to know I don't take it lightly what you shared. I don't take it lightly that I'm the first person that you felt comfortable sharing those things with. And girl, we don't know who this is going to touch.
Right.
This could open up the hearts of other folks who have gone through similar things, who have not been able to speak to anybody in their entire lives about them. People who have been holding on to things that are literally taking years off of their lives from the
Yes.
stress and the anguish and the pain. And so just love, light, and power to you on that.
The pieces. Yeah.
Where has life landed Kelly in 2025?
Life is beautiful. I really feel like I won. I won meaning I got a good what, 20 years in the industry or in music and have 99% positive to say. I never signed a deal that compromised my ability to work, to create. The fact that I could still do music pretty much unscathed. Not all positive experiences, but even learn from the negative. I'm still doing music. I took a few years off because, like you, I had babies on both breasts all the time. I've got a beautiful 11, 7, 5, and 3 year old. We have traveled the whole countryside of Turtle Island, which is also known as the continental United States. My kids are beautiful, thriving, they're safe. I ask them, I say, where of all the places we've been, where do you like, where do you want to be right now? Where's calling to you? And most of the time they come up with a consensus. I very much believe in like conscious parenting. So, you know, I listen to them.
So, are you still performing today?
Yes, I've landed here in South Carolina with my three youngest children's father. He's been developing his music here for the last few years. And I landed here with an incredible group of talented artists, MCs, musicians. I mean, I'm just shocked. I feel like I'm getting a second wind to a real authentic making the band, because I'm telling you, these artists and MCs, everybody's just so original and talented, and we just right away see each other, and we've been performing, supporting each other in different shows and venues. I'm just getting in to do another mixtape. I have music out under the name Kelly Love.
Are you going to leave the people with some breadcrumbs before we leave? Are you going to grace the people with that beautiful voice?
Child, only if you do. I'll sing with you.
Only if I do. Now
I
that's
want to
a
hear your
new one.
I want to hear your beautiful voice. Come on.
Girl, I'm supposed to be asking the question.
Set her free. Let her free, baby. Let her free.
What we singing? What you singing?
Real love. Let's go line by line, baby.
Line by line.
Yes, let the world. How are we gonna do this? Let the world hear this beautiful voice again.
So start us off, line by
Our
line.
love was true and through, and now we made it through the storm.
I really want you to realize, I really want to put you on.
I've been searching for someone to satisfy my every need.
So won't you be my inspiration, be the real love that I need. Oh, I'm searching for a real love, someone to set my heart
Free,
real love. I'm searching for a real love. Not you choosing my favorite artist of all time.
Not
I got
us
to
harmonizing
have
in
a
the
real
band.
love.
Not
Listen,
us
Mary.
harmonizing. Not us harmonizing in real
Come
time.
on.
Oh my God. I love
Mary
technology.
is my heart and soul and will forever be. Mary
I
J.
hope
Blige
this-
can't do no wrong in my eyes.
Oh, I know. Go, Mary. This is my dream come true. This is my
Aw.
band. You are my band. If I had to choose one, it would be you. It's not because I'm on this show, Dominique. It's because of your heart and that voice.
And I
of
know
gold.
that from conversations we've had not on this show. So I believe you and I appreciate you so much. I'm so glad we did this, Kelly.
too,
Oh
honey.
my gosh.
Thank you
We had
so
a time.
much. We did. We had
Oh,
a time.
absolutely. And again,
And
and
sip
I've
some
been,
tea.
you know,
And sip some
hello,
tea.
and spilled some tea, okay? And you know, we like I said, and with all of these girls, we online and we offline. You know, we are connected, sis. So
Forever.
yeah, I love you. I
love you too,
appreciate you being here with me. Thank you and peace.
Peace. And send my love to all the other girls too, please. And your babies.
on that.
And your family. And to all
On
the
that.
fans. And to all the fans for over all the years for just, for tuning into our life,
That
Thank
part.
you to you
that
all.
part.
Yeah.
Love you,
Peace
girl.
and
Peace.
power.
Kelly. I mean, spilling tea is an understatement. We went in so many directions that I felt excited and giggly and fun and sad and, gotta hug my daughters a little tighter when they go to sleep tonight. And, oh, do I miss singing? And I gotta really get out here and do these Sunday covers with Dominique Renee for y'all. And man, that was a journey. One that has absolutely left me with I gotta take some processing time for myself. I would love to hear how you were impacted by today's episode. What were your lasting impressions? Y'all, we are in this thing. I came into Storytelling with Dominique Renee winging it. I don't have any issue with saying that to you guys. I knew I needed to turn on the camera. I knew I needed to step into this calling, into this gift of orating. And I could have never imagined that in just a few weeks, frankly, I mean, this show's been up for less than 2 months, that we would be where we are. That we would be on this journey that has taken us from love and laughter to heartbreak and heartache and excitement and just all of we done ran through the gambit of emotions together. And so I just want to pause and express my gratitude because y'all are keeping this thing going. Y'all are motivating me to continue to turn on the camera, to continue to find pieces of me and pieces of others that are a part of my own through line to bring to the world. We doing this. I told y'all ain't no story like a Dominique Renee story, and you gotta believe me by this point. I'm out, y'all. Come back next week. If you know what I know, you'll be here next week. And I'm out. Peace.
So
tonight, Kelly and I are going to see Lorianne because Diddy has asked her to help us with our dancing and just give us some extra time.
Seriously, like, if I had to choose today, you guys have to give it your all because it's like right now, right here, this is it, okay? 5, 6, 7, 8, boom, cat. A boom, boom, cat, cat, live, a boom. So from the live, Dominique, from the live. Boom, left, right, from the left. Boom, left, right, from the left. Boom, left, right. Pick up your left, pumpkin. Boom, left, right. Did you pick up your left? All right, here we go with a little music. 5, 6, 7, let's live. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. Jump 5. Live, a boom, boom, cat. Live, a boom, boom, boom. Yes. You understand what I'm saying? Easy steps. Where's the performance? Here we go. Boom, boom, cat. Give me a little swagger, Kelly, right there. 5, 6, 8. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And. Woo! Dominique, that face. Now, I believe in a stinky face. I am all for, but honey bunches of oats. When you're a girl and, you know what I mean, you've got to watch. Let's go. And 1, 2, boom. Come on. Cat. Let's work. Live it up. You know what, Kelly? I'm really impressed. You're doing great. Dominique itch? Tell me what you want me to tell Puffy.
I feel like at the end of the night, I left my heart there on the floor with her.
Ladies, I have to go. Good luck to you both. I feel like I'm losing you right now. Am I losing you?
No.
Am I losing you? It's okay if I'm losing you.
I'm just like, a struggle, you know, like, it's hard, and I want it so bad. I just feel like after last night, you guys don't see how hard I worked, and I understand that, like.
It is hard work. What can I tell you? Except that's a reality.